Good afternoon, gentlemen. Right, first off, yes, some apologies. I don't have any nice slideshows to show you. I don't actually, unfortunately, have very much for here to show you. I have personally, during the last year, been somewhat busy in that I bought a house 11 months ago that needed renovated and ends up project managing it. And the trouble is, if you project manage it, you find there are umpteen jobs that, oh, it's not the plasterer's job, it's not the carpenter's job, it's not whatever. So I have spent a lot of time and been working, well, this year on site in the morning through till 11 o'clock, then 12 o'clock, then it got to 1 and 2 and 3. I got to work at 5 o'clock one time. But anyway, but no, we haven't been doing nothing in that time. There's Andrew who works for me, and also have a young lad. You said Jason. Yes, Jason, who works for me, and they've been doing a sterling job keeping things ticking over and one thing another, and getting orders out the door. Because nowadays, actually, whilst RISC OS is still our main work, we do have all sorts of things that are things like Raspberry Pi related, and one or two other odd things that we sort of find that we actually can sell them on eBay for more money than we can sell them on our own website for. It does seem a bit strange, but people will just do whatever's convenient, and if they find something especially that's a bit unusual, and so sending things like actually one thing that would have been making us meaning that we can actually make a profit. I think without selling these, we wouldn't be making a profit at the moment. It might not look anything particular, but it's a HP USB mouse, but it's 3 buttons without a scroll wheel, and no one makes them anymore. And we've managed to seem to have cornered the world's supply of them, and so getting orders to send 10 to Italy, 10 to South Africa, 10 to Vietnam, or 20 to Germany, or lots of one-offs and that. So the fact that we're selling these like on eBay at £49, including delivery in the UK, but actually today you can have them for £39. If you actually, because we started selling them because we realised that some RISC OS users do not like having the scroll wheel. But they were costing us, £25 odd plus VAT and that, so we were selling at £49, including postage and that, to occasionally to the RISC OS users, but then managed to locate some that had someone at a whole load. And then the other day, a couple of months ago, someone said, "Oh, we see you sell these. We've got a whole load more of them. Would you like to buy them for us?" And they had rather large quantity, but I said, well, I could offer X, which I think would be all the amount of money we would take in the first year, because I don't expect we would sell the large number they have, because they don't sell on price, they sell because that's what people really want in some businesses. So that's one of the ways that we're keeping going financially, because yes, the RISC OS market is new sales. Well, really could do with some more new sales. All those people that haven't got the latest generation ARM-based systems, like a Titanium or an iGet-based system, we have them in stock. Not every particular model, derivative of those, but we do have those, and that's is obviously an important part of our business. Also, though, the Acorn retro market. People wanting to resurrect their old computer, play a game that they used to play at school or whatever, or I always wanted to have an Archimedes, but I never could afford one. I can do now. So that's another aspect of our business, and that's one other thing that this year that we launched back in when did we launch these? Here we are. Back in August was the Smalley mouse interface. So it's basically you plug a USB mouse or trackable into there, and then that's a 9-pin quadrature output to go into your Archimedes A5000, A3000, RISC PC, A7. Well, not A7000 because they use PS2 mice. And a chap in Sweden designed it, and we managed to find a suitable case, although the original design didn't fit quite the case, so we've redone the PCB so it fits the case nice and neatly without having to resort to grinding the sides of the PCB off, which the first few boards we had to do, but this now works properly, fits in nice and properly. They are silly money at £49, but no one makes the mice anymore. The Stuart Tyrrell PS2 mouse mini isn't available. Well, there's someone that's got a few that's selling them on eBay at a lot of money, but there's they aren't. We actually ordered 50 from them about 2 years ago, and unfortunately they not heard when they're going to arrive, if ever. From past experience, sometimes they were turning up 6 months or more after ordered, but we've not even had any suggestions that they're likely to ever appear again, because I think they were about £39, so not vastly cheaper, but a little bit cheaper. So, but no, sorry, actually, yes, I was going to say, going back to the so thanks. So I do really need to thank Andrew and Jordan that work for me. That what they've done is brilliant. Whilst I've been rather preoccupied by other things. Another thing that we've launched in this last year was back in July was the Raspberry Pi Lite, which is basically utilising Farnell's Raspberry Pi desktop computer, as they call it, which basically put a Raspberry Pi in a nice, neat case. We've sold out. The customer's taken it away with it. The last one has already left the building, but we can get them relatively easily and build them up, because the thing is, when you get one of these ones, it's nice. You can have a Raspberry Pi. You can put any model of normal one, I mean non-zero, in that in there, but preferably a Raspberry Pi 2 or 3 or 3B plus in there. But the thing is, yes, it uses it has an onboard real-time clock, battery-backed real-time clock, but not standard Acorn connection or software-wise. But we've had the software written for that. We've also had the software written that allows you to control the power on it, so you can do a soft power off, which is another aspect of it. So we launched that and sold quite a few of those. It's a nice, neat little unit that does the job, and because basically inside there it has support for an M-SATA SSD, so you can get those in just a very low capacity 8 gig, 32, 120 or 256 gig in there. The let's go back to there. So that starts at like £189 for a complete little system there that's very effective on that, and very useful. We don't actually bundle a keyboard or mouse, because so many people have recently been saying, well, I've got umpteen USB keyboards and mouse, so that we make those optional, so that avoid wasting things. Then of course we also have the pressure-sensitive graphics tablets, which I think we'd launched about a year ago here, but we have those still available. So always adding to the range when we can. Pardon me. Actually, a couple of things that haven't made it, and I don't know quite when we'll make it, is whilst we have here, this is the what we call the Pi-Top Pro, for Pi-Top RISC OS. So that has in here so basically, this part at the end here comes with the base unit that the Pi-Top people sell, which is basically a USB hub. It also takes the HDMI from the Pi and sends it up to converts to LVDS input for the screen, and it controls the battery and the power management. then you then add in your standard Pi there with cables that link through for HDMI and USB to here. But we also add in, well, three main things in hardware terms. One of the speakers, because otherwise you don't have a beep, battery-backed real-time clock, and this adapter that does allow for some Wi-Fi access. Unfortunately, you can't, to select a new SSID, you have to browse into it using Otter. Is the only browser that unfortunately works into it, and unfortunately Otter is a bit temperamental, to say the least, but so it's not particularly ideal if you're sort of wanting to be out and about and nipping to Costa Coffee, and then the following day your local community centre, you're not going to be able to modify those. Unfortunately, ASUS used to produce one that would remember 32, I think it was, different SSID and their passwords. And they stopped making it. And they now do another one that doesn't have that facility. I just sort of, I find it very strange that no one has decided that there would be an ideal use for having one of those that could remember multiple networks. Some things in technology definitely seem to go backwards. But the thing that didn't make it, and the other main thing to remember, of course, is that we have the RISC OS software that allows you to monitor and control the battery charging and the power, so that you can actually, under software, turn it off, and also you can see how the battery's going. It will prop up a warning telling you that, you know, power is getting low, and eventually I think at 5% it says, I'm going to shut down, bye, because of course the last thing you want it to do is it to be writing to the SD card as its power disappears, and it corrupts your SD card and you can't get any of your data back. Because that's the one thing with that sort of storage, you can, not too difficult to end up losing all your data on there. It's not as if you just lose a file, you can lose all your data. Yeah, that's it. I'm not a great user of, where are we? Trying to remember. Oh yes, yes. We also add extra software in that gives you some configuration of the keyboard, so that to allow. Trying to remember what particularly it allows, but without the extra software, the HID driver from example, XAT. Trying to remember. Without it, you can't do some things. I forget what, to be honest. But the thing is, what didn't make it for the show was that the people that produce the PyTop have done a new version. Well, we call it the V2, but they just still call it the PyTop to really confuse people, which basically has a bigger keyboard, and the keyboard slides forward to allow you to have access to this. But the thing is, unfortunately, the sorry, I'll just shut this one actually down whilst I remember. So Control 12, switch off, and it says, this computer will switch off in 8, 10, 7, 6, 5 seconds. And we can't change that, because that is, we tell their controller turn off, and it says, oh, this is Linux, it might take a while to shut down. I've got to give it at least 10 seconds wait, and then I'll go off, and you can't interrupt it, because once the command's issued, it's going off, that's it. But they've done this slightly newer version of it. Unfortunately, they've changed all the information about battery monitoring and power control and screen contrast and brilliance, and they won't yet tell us yet what it is. They keep saying, oh, well, they've actually got a GitHub page that says, oh, the source is over here, and you go to these pages and they're non-existent. And they say, well, they're very time constrained, the developers, but I've been pestering them since they launched it back in at least 6 months ago now, but they've not given any indication as to what sort of time scale they'll make that available. But It may end up costing a little bit more than this, especially depends on if we end up having to do a lot of work to reverse engineer the software, unfortunately. So, then other things that, well, some of it we're just selling, other people have done, of course, is you may know that the Pi 3B is now being replaced by the Pi 3B Plus, but you might want to buy some Pi 3Bs, not the B Plus, because we're doing them cheaper. And these, of course, are actually ideal for our comp's Pi Phi 3, because they then can utilize the onboard Wi-Fi and make, as they say, if you have a Pi version 3, i.e. with onboard Wi-Fi, it makes a Pi Phi a lot neater and easier to use. So, and the thing is, there's absolutely no advantage in going for that. Well, as far as a Pi Phi is concerned, the slight extra speed improvement you get with that is really of no consequence in a Pi Phi, whereas that is cheaper by, I think, well, we're selling these actually below cost price. So I think these are £31 and you're looking at 39 for that. So you save yourself £8. But it's an ideal to go with a Pi Phi. So do go and give our comp your order. Something else that hasn't quite made it yet. Again, in sort of the retro area, we've sort of commissioned basically another production batch of ID interfaces for the A3000 and A3010. There's someone who has taken one of the long-standing designs. They have re-engineered it slightly to allow them to use more than one package variant of one of the main chips. Well, the main chip that is difficult to get hold of. And they now can use more. They've redone the board so that they can do a multiple of those. So they're now actually going to be getting. They've actually got the PCBs. They're now ordering all the other ancillary chips and getting it assembled. But the chap that's doing it is doing it as a sort of a. He's retired, dabbling, and does what interests him when he has the time. So. It's probably not going to be next month, might be the month after, but we hope to have more of those, because they ID interfaces are rather short on the ground for older machines, for basically pre-A5000 machines that really would make a good advantage of them. That's a mini podule. For ordinary podule type access, there is someone the people that originally designed the ARC-in interfaces are redesigning, are trying to reverse engineer to produce some more, but unfortunately they've lost the information that allows them to actually have the copies of the PAL software, and I think actually even maybe the ROM software, whilst after they stopped producing it, they passed it over to Dave Holden at APDL. Unfortunately, that's sort of become a bit of a dead end, and the people now in charge of APDL's their copies of software and that are not willing to pass it back to Belden. Unfortunately, they don't think they don't think Belden have the rights to it, but Belden thought they did. But that's another matter. So that something like that might happen sometime in the future. Another thing that we're still working on, and it's just still taking an inordinate amount of time, is we're still hoping to get TableMate properly 32-bitted. About 6 or 7 years ago, the author agreed to let us have a copy of the sources, but for various reasons, like he was down in Australia and the computer was in his ex-wife's loft or something, in this country, so it took about 3 years to get access to it, to get the sources, then to find out that they were incomplete and we need some more copy of the sources, and then supposedly the post office had lost 2 discs with it on, and then they were going to actually, he was going to give us the computer that had the data on it, but he wanted to then make a copy of the data onto his other SPC so that exactly he knew he had a copy, and that never happened until he disappeared back to Australia again. So I've been contacting him again to try, and I've managed to track him down because I only had his university address in this country. I've tracked him, got a university email address for him in Australia, and basically said, well, look, can you just confirm what this bit is, because it's basically one module that is called ImageConv, which I believe converts certain, I don't know, BMP type files or something like that to sprites or something like that. I don't know exactly what it does, but I'm trying to work out, ask him to confirm what it does do, so that we can then either just remove those options from the software or re-implement them in another way, because we're 6 or 7 years down the line, we're still not getting very far with that project, but despite having taken an awful lot of time to do that. But we are working on that. Of course, actually going back to, people do realise that after, of course, the B+, what comes after the B+? Well, it's the B+ 128K. I think they might have to not do the 128, drop the K part of it, and find another reason to call it 128. But that's a minor size thing there. Right. So, so on to basically the main thing of the of complete system machines, fully implemented, a little bit more than the Raspberry Pi Lite, and that is sort of, well, of course, now we've basically got the ARM-X6, the titanium-based systems, or the iGate-based systems. Now, there are, I would quite willingly say there are some people that buying the ARM-X6 based systems, despite the fact it's using the same CPU as in a Panda board, that may be the right system for some people, because it does have a slightly higher compatibility with old software, and it does do, on a single screen, really large. You can use the more than 2048 wide screens. If you need those, then yep, go and buy our comp thing. If you don't need those, then basically, yeah, you've got the choice of the titanium-based system, and what we call the Rapido TI, or the iGate-based system, the Rapido IG. So, excuse me. Now, the titanium-based system, it has a number of pros. Unfortunately, most of the extra pros are not really of much use to most people. In fact, it has 2 Ethernet ports and 2 serial ports. RISC OS can't utilise either, or I certainly can't really utilise the extra Ethernet port under RISC OS. Where are we? Let's get my list so I get this accurately. Oh yeah, it's also got the PCI slots, extra SATA ports, but the PCI slots, the only thing that can plug in there that RISC OS uses is a parallel port. Well, since you can buy USB to parallel ports cheaper than PCI parallel port cards, there's no real use for it. It is also the most expensive of the three. The one thing that may be the deciding factor to say, right, no, that's the one to go for, is the fact it has this dual monitor output. Having 2 monitor outputs does mean you can effectively, yes, get 4096 wide display. So there are. It does come with software that allows you to select the wide modes, either two modes of for, say, if you've got 1080, 1920 monitor, or like we've got some of these monitors that they're actually 1440 by 1152 by 2048. But unfortunately, they don't make those anymore. That size panel, for some reason, they stopped making them. But we have a couple available of those refurbished, so you could theoretically have 2 of those. And we found that you can actually get those monitors to accept up to 1440 high. Slightly squashed, so not quite an aspect ratio, but it does actually work on there. So if two monitors is your thing, or lots of SATA ports are what you want, the Rapido TI would be a good investment for that. But the general users, not needing large screens or multiple screens, the Rapido IG, the iGet-based system, basically offers all the advantages at a lower price. It uses the latest CPU, the fastest CPU of the latest type, the Cortex A15 at 1500 megahertz. It's actually got 4 gigabytes of RAM. Admittedly, RISC OS at the moment can only access no more than 2 gig of that. Sometime or other, when people find a real use for it, then, well, if you can find a use for it, please let me know, because Jeffrey Lee, who, as many of you know, has done a massive amount of sterling work on RISC OS, has basically said, well, yeah, because he's got an iGet, and he said, well, I've not bothered looking at getting, adding to get it, because he does need some work to get it to access the extra memory. He says, well, what are people going to use it for? He's not found a use for it himself. If people can find a use for it, then I think it will move up his list, or his to-do list, basically. So that would be, please do let me know if you can think of that use. In actual fact, though, whilst it's only got one SATA port as standard, we do have a SATA port multiplier, which if you put it in one of the larger cases that the same case that we use for the Rapido TI, the titanium-based system, you can get in there the the SATA port multiplier, which allows you to have actually 5 SATA port devices rather than titanium's 4, but if you really want to have lots of SATA devices. So that basically is the thing. But the Rapido, it's a, I on my desk, I could use anything, but basically I have a RISC PC for doing some of the old legacy stuff, and I have the iGet, which I do with my main machine, because it just everything. One of the problems I do find is it is actually, I find, too quick, because sometimes when I'm telling it to do a copy of something, most of the time you never see the reading. It's just writing, because the reading just takes, if I'm sending it to one of the other computers on the network, because I know that I suspect most of you know that if you have a fast computer, if you try and send a lot of data quickly to, say, a RISC PC or even an Ionics and that, you can actually flood it, and it's sorry. And it's sort of the networking sort of grinds to a halt. But I found a little tip was that if you just set the file or action window to be like 300 or 400K, just the fact it's stopping and starting means it keeps going. But when you think, I start thinking, oh, it's just saying writing, so is it going to just stall because I've forgotten to change the window? But it hasn't. It's changed the window, but but you never get to see it because it's just so quick. It just disappears. So we have other things that we're working on, looking to do, but nothing that is imminent, unfortunately, or particularly significant that we can talk about at the moment. But no, it's sort of. And then the other thing is, yes, there are a lot of people that say they have some old Acorn kit that they really want someone to find a good home for it, and we now have ways and means of outlets to find good homes for a lot of our Acorn old kit, and would greatly receive any donations of anything from BBC Micros up to I don't know, RISC PCs or whatever. So anyway, thank you very much. And yes, so a quick look through, see if there's anything else I need to mention or talk about. Covered most things. No. So any questions?
Two questions, one hardware related and one software related. First of all, with the release of 5.24,
yes.
will the Rapido machines take a standard release, or will you be releasing a custom version?
Right. Okay. With the titanium, we're primarily in LSR's hands, really, on that. I think I'm pretty sure. I haven't actually seen the website to see what's actually up there to say if there's a 524 for the titanium, we'll be utilising that. But I don't know when they went up, but I've not yet had a chance to see them. So we will do that. For the iGEP, there is a slight issue in that at the moment there isn't a rule build of the iGEP because there are some HAL issues that mean that the current release of it is not rule aren't happy with some of the HAL aspects at the moment. So basically Willie Thies, who has done the port, he is at the moment still the source for that. Now the thing is, the SATA driver, that was the license basically says that we've now released the source of the SATA driver to rule. So it will be available to come from rule with the SATA driver once they start producing builds. I don't know how long that's going to be, but that will be happening. But for the Pis and the will be, if they're available now on the website officially, then we'll start using. We have had beta versions from them to help test them of all of them, but I don't know whether that beta version was the final version anyway yet, and we've not had a chance to incorporate into what we've got on the machines on the stand at the moment yet. But we will do ASAP on those things.
And second question, any news on the much beloved Photodesk?
Photodesk, I think it's about 18 months ago 3.14 was released, and then we did a minor update which I think was only really applicable to A9 home users, which is a free download off our website. Any other updates, there's nothing imminent on that. As far as the manual is concerned, the chap that was doing the revised manual, was in contact a while back with him. He did say that he anticipated having some time to do some more work on it then, but I've not heard from him. I had hoped to check in with him and check what the current status was, but ran out of time at the moment. But I will be checking in on that relatively shortly, but there's no particular updates. And as far as I'm aware, in 3.14 there are no easily repeatable bugs, let's put it that way. I think that are there. So in some ways it's a mutual product, but I do know, yes, various people have got various ideas for implementing one or two things, but nothing imminent on that one. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the nice weather.
Thank you.
Thank you.